and welcome to week 2 of UKC's In Isolation competition climbing chat show. Charlie Boscoe here, joined, as we will be on every episode, by Mike Langley and Natalie Berry. And last weekend, we should have had Meiringen. We had episode 1 of In Isolation in its place, which I'm sure you'll agree was equally entertaining. And this week, we're looking back at some of the classic Meiringen moments, particularly focusing on some of the recent men's competitions, which have been quite eventful to say the least. The crack, Boulder 4, let's get straight to it. Adam Ondra on number 4.
Well, Boulder number 4, I mean, it was arguably just one of the finest rounds of route setting that the IFSC has seen. I mean, people will write about these things for a long time to come, but it culminated in, you know, the Hollywood script. And I'd love to hear, we're going to hear from Jamie, we're going to ask him these questions. How much thought went into this? How premeditated was the script really? For Adam Ondra, pretty much the only guy in the final who knew how to hand jam, to come out as the last climber and win the competition in just the most spectacular style. It was just the perfect show. And that they're quite rare these days. Absolutely perfect. Last climber, last boulder. It was really magical.
Yeah, and 4 tops for the winner, 3 tops for second, and 2 tops for third, which is how it should be. Natalie,
I'm sure Jamie will say it's all a fluke.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, all smoke and mirrors. Natalie, what was it as a viewer? What was your take on the hand jam? Because there's a lot of people saying, "Well, hand jam's an outdoor climbing skill, and this is a competition; it's not appropriate." And it clearly favoured Adam. Blah blah blah. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, firstly, obviously we saw all the climbers come out and Adam looked quite excited. The Japanese were kind of like laughing about the crack. I think they maybe resigned themselves to thinking, yeah, we won't be able to do this, but it'll be fun. And I think obviously we knew that Adam was probably going to walk it, but we didn't know how the Japanese would fare on it. Like, they're so good at everything else. Like, maybe they're beasts at crack climbing. We don't know. We just haven't seen them on cracks before. So yeah, it was just a bit of an unknown, really.
Do you think it's fair to have that in there?
Well, I think, as Pete Whitaker's argued, like the king of cracks, he said, we expect the best competition climber to be the best all-rounder in different skills. So if they're good on crimps, they're good at dynamic moves, they've got good technique generally, they should be able to crack climb. And yes, it's an outdoor skill, but climbing's roots are in the outdoors on rock climbing. So I think it's only fair that as competition climbing grows and kind of develops, that we incorporate all the skill sets of rock climbing.
For the Japanese team, or Jongwon Chon was in that lineup as well, for them not to know how to hand jam in 2019 I actually thought it was a pretty major oversight from the training team there, the coaches. I mean, crack climbing is a legitimate climbing skill, and they should have known it. It was pretty poor, actually. I mean, they're amazing athletes, but that is a pretty standout, obvious flaw in their kind of repertoire of moves. The only one thing that's unfair about crack climbing was 2 things. One is the width of the crack. It's relevant to your hand size. If you've got really fat hands on a really skinny hand jam, that is fundamentally unfair, because you might not be able to slot it in perfectly. And about the texture of the holds and the volumes that you use and how that cuts the hands. Ultimately, the guys in Meiringen, they created a special volume that was smooth on both sides, so there wasn't any sort of bleeding issues for the athletes. And that's just another part of the story that made the script just so perfect. And yeah, big surprise for these guys not to be able to hand jam. Charlie, we actually managed to, as always, preview the boulders, and the route setters actually had a ladder up against that boulder at the time. So we went up the ladder and slotted our hands in to have a good feel of what the quality of the jam was like. And I guess we've both done a little bit of outdoor climbing, a few trad routes, a few crack climbs. It was a good hand jam. If you put a number on it, HVS? E1 maybe?
Yeah, it wasn't hard. And when you're live, it's really difficult because you're not having a beer with your mate and you don't go, what do you reckon? Should they have hand jams? And sort of discuss it. You just have to go with, that's what I think, that's my gut instinct. And I remember on the live stream, because I ran down to interview Adam, and I just remember thinking, that's fine. It's a rock climbing skill. And I said that on the live stream. I mean, obviously 1 or 2 people had an opinion on that. Incredible as it is to believe, there are 1 or 2 people who have opinions on the internet. And there were opinions had about that. But yeah, that was my instinct. And it was the same in 2017. Jan Hoyer won in Munich. Basically, there was a running jump, and was it a running jump and he spanned it?
Yeah, he basically managed to like push it out as two massive shoulder presses, where a lot of the short guys were having to sort of do 3 or 4 hand movements.
And there was another boulder that really suited him, might have been the last one. And in the live interview afterwards, you'll remember, because you were there, Mike, he said, wow, I got lucky today. And I felt then the same as I did in Meiringen, which is, no, you're not lucky. The boulder suited you, an element of luck, but other days they don't. And there are days where Jan is compressed into a position that there just isn't enough space for him. And there are days when Adam, like in the World Championship final, Adam didn't get a single boulder or a zone. I think sometimes the boulders suit you, sometimes they don't. But I remember thinking at the time, and I still think it, crack climbing, hand jamming is a bona fide rock climbing skill. And if that's what the setters choose to test that day, then that's what you got to climb.
Yeah, I think all credit to Jamie. Like the first boulder in that men's final was a coordination run and jump toe hook, which didn't suit Adam. I think it took him quite a few goes, while the Japanese flashed it or got it second or third go. So, not every problem in that round suited Adam to a T. So, yeah, there was lots of variety and something for everyone, which means that the setting is really good and varied.
Yeah, I felt the setting was brilliant. And a man who had a pretty close-up view on it, because he set the boulders, was our man Jamie Cassidy, and we had a word with him earlier on today. Jamie, welcome along. I hear you've just had a brush with the law. Now find yourself in the children's playground. Where do we start?
Thanks for that. Yeah. No, just a police stop check to make sure everybody actually has to make their journey. A few people, they definitely didn't. It wasn't important for them to make the journey to go and see their mum. Yeah,
that's British people trying to abide by the rules.
Yeah,
got to go and see my mum every what day? On Wednesday.
Got to go and get your dinner cooked by your mum once a week. It's essential.
Yeah, go and bring him my laundry.
What's life like in the freelance route setting world right now? It must be pretty tough for most people. I know
it will be.
You're in a bit of a better position, but there's a lot of people struggling right now.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of other things going on, but it'd have been pretty crippling, especially not especially to me, certainly for me. Yeah, but I know there's a few crowdfund projects starting up. They look like they're doing all right as well. It'll certainly help out a little bit. As soon as maybe in a month or 6 weeks, maybe a decision will be made for the leisure industry to open up in another month or 6 weeks after that. As long as there's a forecast open date, people can start planning route setting, or maybe walls that are doing kind of all right, maybe prepay for it, maybe help the guys out with a few bills. And I mean, they've got to get there, and obviously most of them drive and stuff. You've got to pay everything that comes along with it. And most of them are in vans, really, aren't they? So,
yeah. And what's been the effect on your IFSC season? You're supposed to be in Meiringen now, and then Salt Lake later in the season.
Yeah, supposed to be Meiringen right now, and then I was supposed to be in US, Salt Lake City, and then I'm pretty sure this one's not going to happen. The World Student Games, the Uni Games in Torino. I was supposed to be chief route setter for that.
When is that supposed to be?
It's September, October, off the top of my head. Something like that. Maybe.
See, hey.
Yeah. It'd be pretty hard bouldering with a mask on. a pair of blue gloves.
Full nuclear biological suit. It's going to be quite hard to...
Yeah.
Hazmat suit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think with some of these events, there's so much chalk coming off the mats. That might be a new feature for the coming seasons.
You know what? Yeah. If I was a judge or a brusher, I'd want one. Yeah. Well, yeah. Gone are the days when people used to kick the chalk bags at the judges.
Oh, they were the golden days.
Yellow card.
I think Jerome Mayer did it once or twice, and then I think one time he kicked his team jacket into the river behind the Boulder. I think he might have had to have gone and got it.
Walk of shame.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah.
Well, obviously, you're not going to be at Meiringen this year, but it means we got a really good opportunity to talk about Meiringen last year. I think Charlie and I said on the commentary that the round for the men's was absolutely perfect, I think was the words that we used. I mean, you did a crazy job. It was absolutely brilliant to watch. Can you just give us a bit of an idea of sort of how long in advance you went there and how many people you had in your team, just to give people an idea of what an IFSC team is made up of?
I think I got there. It was a Friday, Saturday comp, wasn't it? I think I got there on the Saturday night beforehand. And we all went and stayed at Manu's place. And we spent the next morning, the guys had an idea. Crack was nothing to do with me. The guys had an idea to make, go backwards a little bit. One of the main reasons we don't tend to put hand jam cracks or anything like that, or knee bars, sharp knee bars, is because people can bleed. And then if they bleed, we have to stop the comp and clean it up. Or if everybody keeps bleeding, then that boulder will be cancelled. But they had an idea to make soft-ish inserts for inside of a jam crack. And they asked me, do you want to come over and look? I said, yeah, sounds like a great idea. And if it works, then let's do it. It's about time we added something a little bit different into it. And the way it ended up playing out, it played out brilliant. It was definitely
So how many days in advance then was that? So you premeditated the hand jam way in advance. 'Cause quite a few experts online were saying that it was completely unfair because Ondra was clearly going to be a crack climbing, he's going to be able to crack climb well. And it was unfair because he was the only one who could crack climb in the final. But that was premeditated days in advance, right?
Oh, they had the idea. They made the molds weeks and weeks before the competition. It would have been quite an interesting comp if Ondra hadn't made the final. I did make the start of that boulder a little bit easier right before the final, though. It didn't need to be as hard as we had it set, so there was an easier entrance into the crack, but it wasn't really hand size dependent. It wasn't parallel. It was actually quite positive. The hands weren't the issue. It was moving your feet. And I think everybody but Ondra was just totally unfamiliar with that kind of thing. But we don't know who's going to get in the final. Ondra could have slipped and not got in the semis. So,
do you know what was impressive? Sorry, Natalie, go ahead.
How did you feel when Ondra qualified? Did you think you could predict the result?
I actually thought it was going to get topped by two others. So,
who did you think?
I definitely, maybe just Tamoa. I definitely thought that he was going to do it. Well, maybe just him. But we made sure the rest of the final was hard enough to actually produce a ranking and a result from the three previous boulders. Didn't really want the whole final just riding on one boulder. Yeah, I was actually apart from the funny little spectacle of the crack. I was actually, for me, I was more pleased with the female final at that comp.
Yeah, they both worked well, but just asking you about the crack, I think one thing I was really impressed by was that you set it so that you had to jam it. And I think so often we see Routesetters
almost got
Routesetters, it seems like get fixated on the way they want the moves to be done, and they kind of get blindsided when the climbers try it a different way. But you guys wanted it to be hand jammed, and we saw the Tamoas and Chons and Kokoras, like the best climbers in the world, not able to find a way to not hand jam it. And I think it's one of the few occasions I can remember where you've sort of successfully steered them to either doing it a certain way.
That took a lot of testing. And the setting team at that particular comp with me, Manu.
It's Manu Hassler.
Petit Mark, Laurent Laporte and Garrett from the US. He was over as a junior setter. It'll have been one of the stronger teams of a World Cup. Not climbing ability, but a very experienced team. So you can get into a little bit of a blinkered road when you're testing, and someone will come over and totally cheat it and something that you didn't see. But it's the whole point. But that one took a lot of testing. We probably tested parts of it 50 times each.
It really added to the show, though. I think it was Jongwon Chon and Tomoa both tried to skip the crack and go left hand all the way up to the zone hold. And for that, it all just seemed to be part of this amazing Hollywood script that you guys managed to write. It was just really added to one of the great IFSC dramas of that season.
Well, you were behind the curtain when we were adjusting that, and you did watch me move that hold up.
The smallest differences and play a huge amount into the result of the competition. And obviously, you've been route setting for a very long time and climbing at a high level, but ultimately there has to be a little bit of a slice of luck in the game as well.
Totally. You could have put that whole comp a month later, and it might have been a disaster with the same field. They might have just travelled to five comps, be tired, be a little bit injured, and it's the one thing about route setting at World Cups. It's a total estimation. And you set during the week, make your adjustments and you plan, and then you have to adjust. The correct way, I think, or the way I do it, is I have the hardest version that I'm ever going to need premeditated. So I'm only ever making something easier. If you're having to put the boots on, try and make a boulder harder and harder and harder, especially after a week, especially at a comp like Meiringen, where, well, you saw my hands, you saw mine, and everybody, all the route setters' hands, everything's absolutely brand new, super rough. You can't, it's a fine line between trying to decide whether something's actually difficult or just painful. And I've been pretty lucky getting it right over the last few years.
Yeah, it was also the first World Cup of the season, so that must have added to that stress of not knowing how people were climbing.
Yeah, the qualifier, as long as the qualifiers go well and they're not completely lopsided, you've got a good idea what's going to go on. And then set the semi-finals that night and make your adjustments and just hope you've got it right.
Natalie's got a question for you that we've been discussing a little bit off the camera, but brace yourself for this one. This could be good.
When are the cracks in women's competitions going to turn up at World Cup level? I know there's been a few at like BBCs or one-off Boulder.
Oh we used to do them all the time. That was actually the plan for Meiringen.
Just dodged a bullet there.
Lucy.
Yeah. Who was it supposed to be in the final?
Didn't really decide. We just wanted to do the same thing with the exact same hold, and put it in for the women. Yeah.
So in theory, you could see that coming in the future.
Yeah, you have to be quite careful. Yeah, there's a massive height difference in the male competition, but it can be really, really, really obvious in the female, and you have to pay attention to it big time. So if you just have
hand size as well.
Yeah, totally. So something did actually happen at Meiringen. I think it was last year. I forget her name. Really, really tall Australian. She totally cheated. Not cheated. She totally broke one of the boulders by just touching the top hold. Stood on a volume, and the other girls who aren't, they're not really, really short. They did the extra move that was designed, and they could kind of only just reach the top, and that's why we put it there. If we'd have put it any higher, they wouldn't be able to reach it. And I watched her walk past me. She's like 6'6" or something.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought I was tall.
Yeah.
What's your take on the problems? I guess it is a problem on the women's side right now. That there's clearly a gulf between the Yanyas and the Akios of this world, and often other finalists, let alone semi-finalists. I mean, we saw, was it Munich last year? Or was it the year before, where Yanya did every boulder and no one else could do more than one? I mean, where do you stand on that, and who do you set for? Do you just set for the best and everyone else just got to keep up?
No, it depends what round. The qualification, it depends what you're hoping to achieve. In the qualification, you're only looking to choose 10 and 10 from groups A and B. So even if the top 6 or 8 do flash everything, that's fine. It doesn't matter for the ranking later in the comp anyway. The qualification is more for getting a ranking from the top 10 down. So I can make the boulders a lot harder, and the results won't change at the top. The good climbers, both the male and the female, they're going to do most of the boulders. And then from about 20th place in each group, you're just going to have a bunch of zeros. And it was actually an IFSC request for us to try and not have as many people with zero. I mean, you can only make the problem so easy. There's a lot of novice World Cup athletes in there, so it has to start somewhere. But the semi-final is normally the hardest sustained round. You are really trying to get a rank in there, and so you can have not an easier final, so you can play a little bit more in the final and have a really good show. Because if everything's really, really hard, and you're trying to maybe separate the top 2, then you're going to have 4 athletes who just maybe won't really do anything. So
I would say if there's any wannabe competition route setters out there, this is absolutely diamond stuff here from Jamie. So get your notebooks out, because this is really learning the very best from the best. Just focusing back on Meiringen last year, the qualification and the semi-final round, it was kind of noted that there wasn't much in the way of circus and running jumps, parkour style boulders.
No.
What was the intention there, and is that something that you guys had discussed, and what's the future for that style?
Well, one, for that particular comp, the walls it's not small, but if you start running around and jumping around, you're taking up wall space that you just really don't have. And I'd seen a few comps over the years that style was way overused. Every style has its place, and it does have a place, and it's really fun to watch. It's fun to set and to compete on as well. But a competition is supposed to be a comprehensive test of the climber's ability. So if you have one style used too many times, then you're going to have kind of one winner. But the future of that style, it's around to stay, and that's been a really interesting thing to watch. The style change, even in the last 5 or 6 years. The styles change quite a lot. There's different connotations of what you'd call circus. Sometimes I've seen it, maybe not in World Cups, but I've seen it used as a little bit of a cop out. So the other boulders are basic and very, very, very difficult. But in order to get a ranking, you need something that's very, very, very droppable, and you just run across a bunch of volumes to a hidden hold. Mm-hmm. It's just total luck, or just not luck, just chance.
Like I say, it is a good. Like, it's been popular amongst route setters not only because of the show, but because of that element that you can get a split in the results. It's pretty much guaranteed that everyone's going to fall off at a different time. So, like I say, it's interesting to hear you say you think it's here to stay, though, and probably rightly so. You know, it's all climbing essentially, as is crack climbing, as is crimping, and as is power problems. But how hard is it to stay up with the level of the athletes now? You have to test very hard moves.
Oh, it's what you call the technical droppable. That style will always be there. That's kind of the bread and butter of how to get a ranking. The very basic boulders, you could you could put a line of small crimps up a wall on 8C or whatever grade you want to call it, and it'll get done. But you could put a really droppable 7B or whatever, and maybe 2 people will do it because they've only got 4 minutes to find the perfect method.
What does that mean for your level as a climber? How much do you have to train before a World Cup? Because I know you tend to dip in and out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm busy with other stuff as well, so I climb as much as I feel I should, but I do ramp it up before a World Cup. I do still set a lot. I set a couple of times a week, but I'll make sure I do some guest sets and climb afterwards after testing, because that's like training. It's more for my skin. It's the skin issue that's really, really, really difficult these days at World Cups. I mean, if the climbers think that they've got bad skin after climbing 5 boulders in a qualifier, having a couple of goes, and then a semi and then a final, or you think that we pull on each boulder 20, 30, 40, 50 times, maybe only one move at a time, and the holds are all brand new and we're dry fire and off them. And we've tested whole boulders that you've never even got to see, because we've totally reset them. At Meiringen 2 years ago, we just decided that something just wasn't right with 2 of the boulders, and we just totally scrapped them and reset them. We'd already fully tested them, which is a whole day. So it's for me, it's just my skin. I'm normally at a fairly decent level for me anyway.
What do you think the next big thing in competition climbing will be? Will it be cracks, or is there something else that you think will come in, like a new style?
There's really, really new school, call them Insta bangles or whatever you want to call them. That you see, I was setting somewhere last month. They want me to set comp style stuff. I'm like, I haven't set comp style stuff. It's easy to do in the gym. It's really easy to do, because it doesn't matter if you can cheat your way around it. But it's really difficult in a comp to have a certain move that you've had designed in your mind, like 4-way movements and jumping and catching with multiple limbs at the same time.
Yeah.
There's normally a way to break it. Manu set an awesome thing up at Meiringen last year, this toe hook thing. And that,
I think it was men's boulder number 2, was it? The blue volumes.
Yeah, it tested that a lot. Days and days and days of testing it, because if you're small, you could break it, and then we changed it. And if you're a little bit taller, you could break it, and we ended up getting it pretty perfect. But they're really, to do it in a World Cup, especially in a final or a semi-final, it's really difficult. Yeah, there's not many people who can do it, and Manu's probably the best. He's probably the best at that kind of thing.
Well, he was going to be on the Olympic route setting team. So if you're not on that team, are you? I don't think. Yep. If you got the call, is that something you would have been interested in?
We were all talking about it. Yes, but everything would have to be right. Even just setting for that format is really strange. There haven't really been many. You don't really know what to. So you can have some speed climbers who aren't as experienced in bouldering and what you call normal climbing. But we have in the bouldering, we have to make sure that there's a split with the speed climbers. So the start of, there's only 3 boulders as well. The start of the boulders has to be easier than they would be normally, in order for them to try and get a zone to split them. Because this isn't to say bad things about speed climbers, but if we made it so speed climbers could potentially get to the top, the World Cup boulderers, your Yanyas and your Shaunas and everybody, they're obviously just going to walk to the top, which that just creates an issue with the ranking at the top. It is. I've done it now, and it's really, really, really difficult, and especially because there's only 3 boulders as well. Yeah, very difficult. Yeah, but it's delayed now till 2021, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah.
Jamie, we'll let you go in just a second, but just when do we think we might see you back at the IFSC? You're supposed to be in Salt Lake on another jolly work trip out to the States. Yeah.
I think most of the postponed World Cups are for early this season was from now. I think they're going to get moved to September, October. So if everything's back up and running by then, you're going to have a late World Cup and maybe a surprise World Cup at a different venue, a different country that we've not had a World Cup for a while. Yeah, potentially.
I have my guesses.
Yeah, maybe.
Thanks a lot for your time, and
no bother.
Really appreciate you calling in, and I hope your legal matters are resolved.
Yeah, good luck with the release on the way out.
I hope I can make it home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I better go and change that ball tyre.
Right. Cheers, Jamie. Thanks a lot, man.
Bye.
Thanks, Jamie. Always good to get a fellow Northerner on the show, kind of even out the Scottish and the wherever Mike's from, south of Birmingham.
South.
I'm a Scouser too.
The sunny bit.
But yeah, thanks, Jamie, for your time. Thanks, Mike and Natalie, and we will speak next week. Got another special guest on next week. We'll keep it secret. But yeah, thanks for your time, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next Friday.